For those of you who've never been to an ice cafe before, Puya just introduced me and my background. I'd like to get to know you before we dive into working together tonight. The intention of tonight is understanding what talents are with respect to developing others, whether it's in an organization or you as a coach working with your clients. You know, what are talents with respect to the potential the individual has to develop and move towards excellence in whatever field, whatever role, whatever tasks and activities that they're assigned to. So that's the idea. Tonight we want to talk a little bit about what talents are, what's the business case around here of kind of the mindset of strengths and talents, and then dive into a demonstration to see what a coaching conversation using talents looks like. And we have a Q&A section at the end so we can answer your questions as we go along. So I'm going to put a poll up. Basically, this is about you. It's 3 questions. I'm going to give you, I've just launched it, so you should be seeing it. These are pretty simple questions, but it gives us an idea who's in the room tonight, and for me to get to know you a little bit. And of course, I'll share the results so we can know who's here as you respond. So I'm going to give you a little bit of time just to go through these 3 questions. First one is all about your current role. So what is it that you do? Second one is, what's the reason that you've chosen to be here tonight? Put your precious time. What is it that you're here for? And then lastly, have you done the Gallup Strength Finder assessment? And if you have, then obviously tonight's conversation and the coaching conversation will be even more impactful. Okay, I can see about half of you have filled, and I'm just going to give a little bit more time so we get all of you participating. So I'm already seeing in the results that the majority of you, almost 60%, are here to increase your impact at work and raise your earning power or earning potential. And about 30% of you want to advance your career and add coaching to your competency base. Roughly about 25% are here because you want to become a coach and eventually earn an income. And then there's about 20% others with other outcomes that you're looking for. Who's actually here? What kind of background? I'm seeing almost 70% of you are business owners. So that's amazing. That's the first time I'm actually seeing that statistics on an ice cafe. So almost 70% of you are business owners. But also, some of you may have put that you're managing projects or teams or you're senior leaders within that business. And there's just under 25% that are saying that you're a coach with an ICF education already. And then almost 70% of you have done the Gallup Strength Finder assessment. So thank you for participating, everyone. Let me ask those of you who have done the Gallup Strength, if you remember what it is that your top 5 themes are, great. If you don't, if you get access to that report that tells you what it is and is handy, please dig it out, because it might be useful to kind of refer to something a report that you've already got, as opposed to the exercise I'm about to dive in with you. So if you've got that report, it might be handy having that next to you. Okay, so let me share kind of some methodologies, philosophies, beliefs, and also statistics that says why it is that as leaders or managers in an organization or as coaches working with clients, why is it that working with a focus on the talents makes such an impact? So if an individual is applying talents, and you can think about yourself as you're applying your own talents to what you do, how do you feel? How do you feel? And when you are doing it, when you're doing what you're doing in that role, how much more productive are you? So the research says, and my experience is, as we work more and more with talents, of our own talents in what we do on a daily basis, we feel better. It impacts our well-being. It impacts the way we feel about the role and our engagement to the role, and we produce results and move towards excellence much faster. That means we learn faster. So what is the definition of talent in the conversation we're going to have? Talents are basically what it is that our neurology, the way our brain is wired in a unique way that allows us individually to have an innate, like almost autopilot, recurrence of patterns of thought, feelings, and behavior. So if you can think about that for a second, when you are on your autopilot, so you're not consciously making a decision, you're on autopilot, and something happens. You know, if you're on a plane and or you all of a sudden you see the plane shaking and there seems to be an issue, how do you, what's your behavior? What do you do? The talents drive what we do. It drives the feelings that we have about things that we're about to go and do, and the thinking that we have about those tasks and activities and goals that we set ourselves. So talents are defined in that way. And the idea tonight in a coaching conversation is how do we identify them? Well, some of you who've done the Gallup assessment, you would have got access through an assessment. Those of you who haven't, I'm going to give you an exercise to do. And those of you who have had the Gallup Strength Finder assessment, you can also look at your top 5 again, based on the list I'm going to give you, and have another read of what are those 5, and get familiar with them again if you haven't used them for a while. So the idea of identifying talents is we first of all want to define it. We want to understand it. Once we've defined it, so for example, one of my talents is persistence. So I've noticed this about myself ever since I was a young kid. If I want to do something, I have incredible amount of persistence in getting the outcome. That is one of my talents. It's been with me for all my life. So I define that by giving that a name called persistence. And then I observe it. I observe how that's showing up when it does show up. When does it show up? How does it show up? What have I done with it when it shows up? And I put a language to it. So if you've done the Gallup assessment, there's a language to some of the talent themes. And it's easy for the neocortex, the front end of our brain, to be able to understand and communicate, because it's got a language that it can use in order to make a statement about how they feel, how they think, and why they're behaving the way they're behaving. So putting a language to it makes it easy for us to communicate with one another. And this becomes paramount when we're doing a coaching conversation, whether as a leader or a coach, so that we understand each other's language. And if there's any ambiguity, we can resolve it by asking very powerful questions to get to the bottom of what is exactly that talent that we're observing. So I'm going to put in the chat right now a file that has 34 themes. These themes are here on the left-hand side of the column, and there's a name to them. 70% of you are familiar with this. The other 30% are not. So I'm just going to quickly explain this. So each theme will have a series of talents within it. So it's a category of talents. So the theme of achiever has the talent of working hard. We notice that in individuals. If you observe them at work, they work hard, long hours, they're busy, and they possess a great deal of stamina. So they keep on going, and they have this immense satisfaction by being busy and by being productive. And I would add one other thing, which is results. They are driven by results. So they like to have checklists in order to be able to tick them off, showing that they have reached those results. So as we give it a name, we have these category of talents that's within here. And as you read these, when I send you the file in a second, as you read these, what I'd like you to do is to glance through the writing for each of the themes, and then pick anything between 1 to 5 themes that you believe you observe in yourself all the time. And it's not just in your current role. You've observed this for many, many, many years. It's a characteristic of yours. So I'm going to dig that file out. I'm going to see if I can put it in the chat here. And for those of you who have never seen this file, if you've got it already, you can use it. Otherwise, this is, it's called the Quick Reference Talent. And I'd like you to open it up. These talent themes, there's 34 of them. So I'm going to give you a little bit of time. And what I'd like you to do is to go through this without thinking a lot. Literally, as you read it, if you feel this is me, I am observing a characteristic that I notice about myself, and you see this, you've had this for many years, and you still have it, please circle it. And if you've got 1, up to 5 maximum. So some of you might be very quick, you might be able to identify up to 5. Some of you may only have time to read and select 1. As long as we've got at least 1, we can move forward tonight and have the demo, and for you to realize kind of the conversation we're having. You can kind of refer to the talent you've picked yourself. So I'm going to give you a little bit of time to go through that. If you have any questions, please just raise your hand or open your audio and ask away. So what I would say is, if you have reached the numbers, you've selected them, please put in the chat that you're done, or just simply raise your hand or give a thumbs up indication, so I know where the group is. I'd like us to move together as we go forward. Well done, Rabia. Thank you. Thank you, Maya. Nicholas, thank you. So I'm going to ask you, I don't know whether you've ever used this feature in Zoom, is if you go and basically use the participants menu, like click on that, you'll see your name. And if you go and put the cursor on your name, you should see 3 or 4 dots. And one of the menu options there is rename. And for those of you who've completed it, what I'd like you to do is just go to your rename and put what you have selected next to your name. Now, if you've selected just one, that's fine. and if you've gone up to 5, that's also great. So as you put it next to your name, it's going to be there in the participants. So when we talk and you're talking, we will go through the active listening part of coaching and observe what is it that we're listening in the other person from a perspective of their talent showing up. So that's what hopefully will be interesting in as we go through this. So thanks, Sarah, for putting your top 5 next to your name. I'm seeing one other person has done it, but I think you've removed your name from the list. If you can put your name in there as well, so I know who I'm talking to as well, that would be fantastic. Thank you. If I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly, I apologize in advance. Lodja, thank you for putting your top 5. Thank you. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of time for those of you who are still reading and selecting. And thank you, Rabia, for putting your name. So for those of you who have already selected and have put it next to your names, what I'd like to ask you to do, so that we kind of use the time we have, what I'd like you to do is to think about a particular outcome that you are working towards, if it's at work or if you're a coach in your coaching business. Think about a goal or an outcome that is important for you to work towards. So for example, if you're a leader and you're leading a team, maybe increasing the team engagement, or maybe there's particular business results that you're after, and you're challenged in some way to get those, or you're bringing new people in and you want to know how quickly you can get them up and running. So anything, or maybe you've got a new role and you're dealing with a new team, new environment, whatever it is that you would like to work on tonight. Because I'd like as I'm working with at least one of you tonight in a coaching demo, I'd like the rest of you to be using that example to work on something that you're working on, so you can see how this process could work for you. So Maya, you've asked, should we pick what we feel it matches our talents, or what was on our number 1 from our Gallup assessment? So what I would do, if you've done the Gallup assessment and you think those themes are still valid, Maya, I would use those. If you feel that you are seeing some other talents that is not in your top 5 and it's in that 34 that you'd like to highlight, then please put those. So we have many talents. It's not just the 5 talents that you get from the report. It just depends on how much capacity each talent has in the way we're wired, in the experiences and the DNA, and how much we've developed them. So I hope that answers your question, Maya. If not, please just write in the chat so we can get that. Soraya, thank you very much for outlining the themes. Can I encourage you to put it next to your name using the rename, so that we can kind of go to one place and see our talents in one place. So Rabia is writing, I'm working on a change management project and need to draft a 30, 60, 90-day plan. Great. So that's a great example. So focusing on delivering a plan that seems to be important to you. So that's a great example. If you guys were looking for an example, that's something that hits the nail on the head. Soraya, I'm a high school educator. I'd like to work on consistency. So expand on that, Soraya. So the outcome you're looking for, be more specific about what would it look like. How will you know when you've reached it? So, like for example, Rabia's example, Rabia knows whether she's nailed her 30-day plan because she's got the 30-day plan in front of her. So what is it that you want to achieve that you can actually measure? Paolo's written, I would like to work on better time management and prioritization. Great. So these are good examples. So please keep them rolling in as you've highlighted your themes from the file I've just given. Think about what is it that you want to work on tonight. So does anybody need more time to extract their themes or their talents from that file? I want to make sure we all move together so nobody's left behind as we're going through this. You can quite easily undo the audio if you want to speak, if it's easier, or just write in the chat, just to let me know where you're at and if you need extra time. So Maya has written ideation and need a direction and alignment with my natural talents. After I've done the assessment, I was confused and felt a disconnect between my current career and my talents. Okay, so I'm just looking at Maya. If you could identify what those talents that or themes that you've chosen. If you can either put it in the chat or ideally put it in next to your name, so that when I'm speaking with you guys, I don't have to find it in the chat. It's already there. So Amir, thank you for putting yours up. Nicholas has written, we'll do on some minutes driving but listening. Okay, so Nicholas, stay safe. And join us. Hopefully you'll be able to catch up as we go through. Anybody else that's still want a little bit of time? Soraya is written. Okay, so my students are very different, and it's difficult to address individuals' needs and switch between them while maintaining my approach, yet catering to their individual needs and personalities. Awesome. Okay, so that's much clearer. So now I understand what you mean by, I think I understand better what you mean by consistency. Okay, so that's a great example. All right, so I'm guessing that since I haven't had any response, that everybody's ready to roll and move forward. If you have additional insights about your themes and you haven't shared them, please put it in the chat and I'll come back to it in a second. And if you have a goal you want to add, please do so in the chat and I'll come back to that as well. So let me just go back to these slides. So we're talking about talents and the importance of talents. So let's just look at here how talents are linked with our engagement at work, or our engagement with work, or during work. So when Gallup did their extensive survey across the globe, I think there was like 10,000 interviews, and there's a lot of data. What they gathered from that research was that those people who concentrated on their talents every day, put their talents to play every day in what they did at work, they were 6 times more likely to be engaged at work. So let me describe this sentence in another way. What this is saying is one of the most important indicators, if you're a team leader or if you want to improve your own performance at work, is to ensure that you are utilizing your talents in what you do every day. So that's what it's saying. And this is one of the levers that us coaches that work with organizations or team leaders use in order to increase productivity, because we have so many things going on. So if we can focus on one thing that's going to move the engagement by a large percentage, then it's the 80-20 rule. So this is a critical piece of research that it's reality, because I've been using this for 2 decades and it works. When they start focusing on their talents, their engagements increase. So you might be asking, so what if their engagement increases? Or, so what if I get more engaged at work? What does that mean? And what it means is, from a business results, we know there's a direct linkage between higher engagement and higher performance. So those teams that have leaders that have increased the engagement of those teams, the top quartile versus the bottom quartile of those teams, this is the difference in various key performance indicators that we've looked at, whether it's profitability, sales, productivity, safety incidents, pretty much any indicator that organizations use. What we're finding is that there is a linkage between talent, engagement, and performance. So that's why strength development at ICE has become a fundamental part of our coaching education. We've incorporated over and above what ICF has said the coaching competencies are, simply because we believe this extra tool will enhance the impact. So what is the strength-based development objective? Right now, across the globe, the average is between 2 to 3 people out of 10 are utilizing their talents or strengths every day in what they do at work. In order to increase the business results, what the team leaders need to focus on is to increase that number to 70 to 80%. That means a team of 10 people, maybe 2 or 3 of them are engaged. You want to make sure that 7 to 8 of them are fully engaged in your team. Ideally, you want all of them to be engaged. So that's the objective. But that's the arrow. We want to move this clock significantly. And that the way to do it is to focus on individual strengths, individual talents. The way team leaders do it is through a coaching conversation and the coaching competencies that ICF has outlined. And in ICE, we focus on the 3 W's. So what typically the increased impact in our coaching conversations come from identifying what is it that the individual wants. So I've asked some of you, all of you, and some of you have written in the chat, what is it that you want to focus on? So the what for some of you is now in the chat. Some of you haven't written it, but you've probably got it in your mind, or you've got it in front of you and you want to work on it. The second W is about your situation. Where are you at? Where are you at? Like somebody mentioned just now that they have a very critical project and a timeline, and they need to get a plan. So the context you're in is critical. The context is critical because the context drives what's required in order to get the results you need. As an example, if you're going to a meeting, and in a meeting, that meeting is about brainstorming, and you're moving in with your talent of activator, where you want to quickly move through the ideas to get a decision, you're probably going to minimize the impact of that brainstorm because you're using the talent that is not required for that meeting. What you want to be doing is intentionally thinking about what talent you want to use that serves that objective of the meeting. So if you've got ideation, for example, you want to bring your ideation talent in, where you can start thinking about some new ideas of adding to that brainstorm, where the team will feel the added value of your presence. So the context is important, and then the who is who are you? So what talents do you have, and which ones should you be thinking about, or could you be thinking about, that would give the biggest impact of reaching the goal in the context that you're in? This is a critical model that I believe team leaders and coaches can use to significantly increase their impact in a coaching conversation and move things forward, because they are focused on some critical thoughts that will make the outcome more effective and it'll be more productive. So the who part of it is critical in this equation. The ICF competencies, some of you are familiar with this. The idea is cultivating learning and growth. That's the outcome of the session. Whatever conversation you're having, you want to be thinking about what insights, what's the, what growth, what development, what idea, what actions, what's come that could be worked on so that we can move towards that excellence. But in order to get there, we need to communicate effectively, the listening, the questions, raising the awareness. We want to set the scene, like what are we working on, the trust, the presence of the coach, and then obviously who the coach is being from an ethical conduct and also their mindset. So these are the frameworks that you're going to hear in the demo tonight. So let me go back to you as a group. Out of the conversations we've had so far, how many of you are willing to have a coaching conversation with me tonight? Can I get a raise of hands with some of you who are comfortable, would like to get into a coaching conversation so we can understand how this is applied? Rabia, thank you for volunteering. Anybody else that's interested in being involved in a coaching conversation? Please indicate either in chat or by raising a hand, so I'm aware if you've changed your mind. Or
Taimur, Amir has indicated on the chat that he'd like to volunteer.
Thanks, Puya. Okay, so we've got a couple of volunteers. So
and Nicholas as well. Awesome,
Nicholas. I would imagine if you're going to volunteer, please just give a heads up on when you're somewhere safe that you're not driving. If you
and
can.
Sarah as well. No.
Thank you. So Nicholas, let me know. Okay, so let's just go through this 1 second. So what are we gonna actually do? What's this coaching conversation look like? So let me share my my screen again, and I'm going to run through so that you know what I'm doing. And this is a very simple model, yet very powerful. And you can use this model immediately for yourself after this call. So let me share the screen, and here we go. Okay, so here's the model. It's called the 3-step talent builder. It's got an acronym of ICE, ICE. So for you to remember it, I love acronyms because it helps me remember it. So I stands for identification of your innate talents. So you guys just did that. You had that file I sent, and if you've done the Gallup assessment, you had some access to information there. So within that, you have picked you've identified some innate talents that you have. Remember what talents mean. Talents is the way our brain is wired. It's unique to ours. There's not just one talent, there's lots of talents there. Some of them have a lot more capacity than others. It uses this model because it complements the Gallup assessment. So if you're going with Gallup language of 34 themes, think about this, that we all have the 34 themes in our wiring. Some of those themes have a lot more capacity and a lot more stronger in the way they operate. Some of them are almost switched off. They're almost like low frequency. So they're there, but they're not firing up when something happens, right? The ones that are firing up are the ones that are dominant. So that's why I asked you, when you're going through that list, please select your 1 to 5 that you notice about yourself, and you've noticed it for many years, and it's there all the time. So that means it's dominant, it's showing up all the time, and you recognize those characteristics. So I'm going to start with Rabia, because she was the first volunteer. So we're going to look at Rabia's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, however many talents that she's identified. We're then going to move to the second part, which is capturing and being cognizant of that power. Because talents are basically the power we possess, or the potential we possess, and it's the way we use them that makes them powerful. It's the way we use them that makes them powerful. So in this coaching conversation, I want to hear how Rabia is utilizing those talents right now, and how has she utilized them in the past. And we want to get some patterns of success coming out. So as you're capturing those successes, as you're cognizant to the power that's available, you can make better decisions. And that moves us to the third step, which is executing intentionally. And before you execute, you want to know what your goal is, the what. You want to know where you are at, which is the context. And then you want to use the who, the talent, in order to get the best outcome you possibly can intentionally. Now, how does this move forward in terms of you moving towards excellence? So if you have a talent already, let's say for me, it's persistence. If I am persistent and I'm persistent at everything, I'm going to burn out. But if I'm persistent selectively, I am going to be very successful using that talent. So I want to develop my talent in order for it to work productively for me and whoever else I'm involved with. That's the outcome I'm looking for in my personal development journey. So I'm learning about my talents. I'm observing where they're showing up and the power that they have. I notice sometimes they veer off, they go off track, and I'm not using them productively. So that's the bit about working with a coach, so that I understand, if it's a blind spot, I can understand where the blind spot is and I can bring it back, so that I can develop that talent to be more effective and more productive in whatever circumstance that I find myself, with whatever goal I find myself in, that's important to me. So this model is simple. In order to become really good at utilizing this model and getting results, that's where the practice and the development is required. So in essence, if I wanted to then summarize how this thing about developing talents to get more performance is working, it's all about the self. So this is about me growing, me developing. So if I'm observing myself and I'm self-aware, I can pick up the talents and where they're showing up and see them, be aware of them. I can self-express. So I can go back and have a look at how those talents are showing up and where the success has been and how I'm utilizing them. And then finally, I can regulate myself so that I can intentionally use them and develop them so that I can get better results over time, and I am getting the best results currently with what I've got. So on that note, I'm going to ask Radia if. Thanks, Nicholas. It's good you're in a safe place. So thanks for letting me know. So Radia, would you be able to open up your video so I can connect with you and we can have a conversation?
Hi, Tamer.
Hi.
I'm
Am
in
I
Ireland and it's bank holiday here, so I'm in my gown and stuff. I'm taking it easy.
absolutely, absolutely? It all works. It all works.
Yeah.
So if you hadn't told me, I would have never guessed that's your gown, by the way.
Oh,
So,
really? It's my
so
Gucci gown. Yeah.
I love it. So am I correct in pronouncing your name, Rabia?
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So I'm guessing that you've done the Gallup Strength Finder, and those are your top 5 themes. Is that what you've done?
Yeah, I did. I picked 4 from your one. I've actually done the VIA Strengths Finder,
Okay.
which is
Okay.
somewhat similar, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So Rabia, can you just, in your own words, can you describe if we had a 15-minute conversation together? Um, in this 15 minutes, what is it that would work for you as an outcome that's realistic?
How to create that 30, 60, 90-day plan, as a change management project in an organization.
Yeah. Okay, great. And how critical is this? Like, give me a little bit of context.
Oh, I have to do I guess a proposal / presentation in the next couple of, actually probably next week or the week after. I'm waiting on dates.
Okay.
But it's about changing culture in an organization.
Okay.
And how would I do that in a 30, 60, and 90 days, so over 3 months.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so I'm looking at your top 5 themes. You've written achiever, strategic. Is it command or communication? What,
Command or something like that, yeah.
command, and empathy is the 4 you've picked. So when you pick these, as you were reading through, which one of these 4 would you guess right now would most serve you in coming up with this draft plan?
The one that's probably most relevant, we're talking about changing culture in an organization, strong focus on empathy, and maybe commanding, then achieving, and I can't remember what the other one I picked.
Strategic.
Strategic, yes. Yeah, putting my own, the way you described it, or the way Gallup described that, was like you kind of put your own spin on it.
Yeah.
So
So let me ask you. I this is my guess, right? So tell me if I'm wrong with this guess. So I'm guessing that with your level of experience, a number of years experience, how to draft a plan is not the issue. There's something behind this goal that is holding you back, right? It's kind of, that's the sensation I get. It's about there's a slower motion towards doing this for some reason.
I want to get it right, so I guess, yeah, maybe perfectionism, or just making sure that it's going to align with what they're looking for.
Yeah. How important is that presentation to you?
Oh, it's very important, yeah. So maybe that's why I'm kind of nervous. I want to get it perfect, and then your masterclass, this webinar, was perfect timing. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you want to get it perfect. It's important for you to get it right, because it's a piece of work. You want to demonstrate that you have done well and you've got it right.
Yeah, I want to get this gig.
You want to get this gig. So can I ask if here's where I want you to kind of maybe tap into the past successes. Out of those 4 themes that you picked, what kind of characteristics would you say that you would pick out of that represents Rabia to the T? And you
achiever 100% from probably before I was born. Yeah.
So how would you describe, so what is the characteristic of achiever? How does it show up in the past that's created success for you? How does it show up?
I once I want to do something, I just go after and do it. You know, from academics to work, career, all that kind of stuff. I just kind of get on with it. But it has to be something that I want. You know, it's not something somebody else wants me to do. Well, sometimes, but it has to be something that I desire.
So tell me, on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being massive desire, 1 being very, very, very low, how much do you desire to actually deliver this draft and do the presentation?
But 6.
5, 6. Okay. So you have commitment behind this. That you want this, and it's going to get done.
Oh yeah, I've met with the company already, and I love what they do based on, you know, what I see online, and based on meeting a couple of people. They just seem like a great company to work with. So I'm really excited. Yeah.
Okay. So you use the word how. You said how to draft this 30, 60, 90.
Yeah, or maybe that just came out. But yeah, yeah, I just want to get it right.
Okay. So tell me out of the past examples where you've had to do a similar important delivery that for you it was about getting it right. What were some of the patterns that you noticed that you tapped into that made it happen?
What seems to work for me is to simplify things. So I talk more, and the presentation has, you know, minimal content. And it's a mixture of words, infographics or photos, colors, you know, to engage your audience, the different learning styles. So I'm good at that. You know, the rule of 3. So I'm thinking of coming up with a three words, I guess, similar to what you said, you know, identify, recognize, and maybe implement or deliver. The ICF, whatever the E was, but I tend to come up with 3. You know, I'm thinking of culture, courage, and maybe caring. I'm not too sure. The 3 C's for this change management culture piece, because I'm bringing some of their organizational values into the wording as well, which is courage is one of them, and obviously culture. So that kind of stuff works for me. And then using that as 30, 60, 90, right? So they each, that's kind of my, you know, map in my head at the moment. I haven't. And the other thing that works for me when I do deliver webinars or do speak at conferences is to start off with something strong before even kind of going into what I'm going to talk about. So, for example, a few weeks ago, I made a bold statement straight into a webinar to capture attention. And then I said, I know this is bold. This is a bold statement. And then I described why it's bold, because it was relevant to the topic. Right. So, and then I kind of go into, okay, we're going to talk about X, Y, and Z, and then, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. So I love, first of all, I love your energy, you obviously thought about this already, right? So you've been pondering, you've been pondering away, and there's this gap between your thoughts and getting something down on paper.
Yes.
What is that gap?
Oh, the gap is I'm waiting for them to give me a brief on what they want. So I've asked for that because I'm due to get that. I don't want to kind of start the work and then I get a brief which is quite different, and then I have to duplicate, you know. So
okay. So what do you think? What do you think if I did this? If we did this exercise about how to draft the 30, 60, 90 using your past successes of how you can actually deliver I don't want to use the word perfect, but the right delivery for what this circumstance is required. So what do you think about, is that what you want to kind of nail?
Yeah, I think when I go in too much in this capacity, where it's a potential proposal, where it's a proposal, and at the end of it, I'm going to get the project or not, right? I'm going to win this project or not, or win this bid or not. What tends to work for me is when I don't actually work that hard on it. When I just talk about it and keep it very simple, like an Excel file, which is not what they're looking for. They're not looking for an example. They want to see a presentation, because they want to see my presentation skills as well, because that's part of the whole project. So, but what works for me is simplicity, and simplicity.
Okay, so what's the thing here that that almost is the break that I'm hearing in what you're saying? Is it about you going and doing a presentation and demonstrating your presentation skills, or what is it?
I'm nervous if I'm not going to win this. That's, so that's where the hesitation is, because I want to win this.
Right. So, the achiever says, "I want to get the results," and
I want to. When I say I want to win it, it's going to bring in lots of income. So that's what I mean by winning it.
Yeah. So your achiever, the theme you've chosen as achiever has stamina. It's hardworking, and you're not shy about rolling your sleeves up and writing the presentation, practicing the presentation, doing whatever's required.
Yeah, I have no hesitations on the presentation side of it, because I do plenty of those.
Awesome. So here's one thing I want to share. I want to share the screen, and I want to see if this helps. This helps with your decision making. So the strategic that you chose, strategic is a theme that the talented has. Is you create alternative ways that you can proceed.
Mm-hmm.
And faced with any given scenario, you can quickly spot the relevant pattern and issues that need to be addressed. The strategic mind works in a way that you are looking for the best way to get to the outcome.
Yeah.
Do you have that? Do you have that talent, do you believe?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. The VIA Strengths Finder that I did calls that conceptual.
Okay, so why don't you have a go at thinking if you put that strategic at play intentionally? How based on everything you've got in front of you, what is the best approach, and what is the backup plan?
Okay, so the organization is looking to have more emphasis on their people and culture. I close my eyes when I'm thinking. The organization is looking for, I guess, a cohesion within their staff and management. And the 30, 60, 90-day plan initially would be, the first month would focus on getting to know the key stakeholders. So that would be the leadership team, having maybe a group session with them, and then one-on-one sessions, with kind of selected questions and things like that. So first month is to get to know everyone. and their ideologies on what culture looks like in line with their values. And then the second month is for me to plan that out and how that's going to roll out over the next 6 to 12 months. And then 90 days, the next 30 days would be to start implementing essentially month 1 of the plan.
Okay, sounds like you've just outlined the plan.
Okay. Yeah.
So you said empathy would be a really key factor for you. And empathy is about putting yourself in other people's shoes and sensing how they're feeling, imagining being in their situation, and then that would help you to be able to coach them or use the better option or better way. So think about that for a second. So that's another power that you have. You can put yourself in people's shoes that are going to take what your suggestion is and get value out of it. Not just the business, but also the people in it. So if you just put that hat on for a second, what would you alter or change or add to what you said, if anything?
I would bring in a lot of coaching skills and coaching questions as part of my questions. I'm an accredited coach myself with EMCC. That's very helpful. And then just start from the get-go on how I see this project for them, and just lead with honesty and to tell them that I have, this is my style. I'm straight talking with empathy, and that I will have very honest conversations with them. And basically, if there's something that I feel is not resonating with me, if I feel something is not right, something doesn't feel right, like people are saying things to me in words, but the body language doesn't match, for example, that I will, mention that. I mean, I'll suss that out. I'm pretty good at that. In meetings, I'll suss it out to see how open do I think that person is, because some people are not. So, but I'll kind of lead with that about the honesty and empathy, and that I'm here to help.
Great. And what I hear in that is that being that person, you are going to create a safer environment, building trust, and therefore a more meaningful conversation in terms of how you get into.
Yeah, essentially the start of a coaching conversation, right, on your first session that we do as coaches, which is to build that trust and safety and space. Yeah.
Awesome. So if we put a pause button right here, could you just share your takeaway? How did this process work for you? Your insights?
Yeah, it was about knowing the strengths. So I'm cognizant of my strengths. The wording was different with the Gallup, but essentially it means the same thing. But I guess the intentional piece is the key takeaway. Being intentional, absorbing that or embedding that into my project. The plan is, that's been the most beneficial. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for volunteering.
Thank you.
That is awesome. Okay, so let's. I'm gonna just ask the rest of you who were listening to that. What is it that you noticed? And I know I'm going to ask Puya to come in and share some information in a minute. But in the next 5 minutes or so, we're going to come back and we're going to have some takeaways. I've got some more information that I can share with you, but also I want to leave some time for you guys to ask questions as well. So we've got some time when we come back, but I'd like you just to capture what is it that you learned as far as the process is concerned. How can you use that process for yourself and with others as you go forward? And I'd love to hear from you when we get back. So Amir's asked, what do you mean by intentionally using one's strength? So I just want to go back to the concept of how our brain is wired. So we have lots of talents, and the dominant ones are always seems to be at play. They always seems to be active. Now, if we have learned to utilize one particular talent a lot, so for example, if I have used my persistence talent, and I seem to be using persistence for whatever the goal is, it automatically comes up and I want to use that. If I do that blindly, then what will happen is that there will be some circumstances where persistence is not the answer. It's not the talent or the potential that would best work for the circumstances I find myself. So to intentionally execute first requires you to know what talents are your dominant talents. And then you would want to make sure you understand what their capacity is and what their powers are. And that's the easy way to do that, is to look back at how you've been using them in the past, and then look at the circumstances that you are facing. And based on the circumstances you see, the 3 W's, so the goal you have, the circumstances you see, you pick the talent that you have that's dominant, that would best serve that situation most. And then intentionally you use that, as opposed to on autopilot using persistence, for example, because persistence may not be the right one. Now, when I say the right one, because the ultimate intention of us is we want to be productive. We want to be able to do things and get results and have a good impact on others at the same time. So we have more dominant talents than just 1 or 2 or 3. And the idea is to get to know them and then intentionally use the one that is warranted with the circumstances you find yourself. So Amir, if there's any more behind that question that I haven't answered, please raise your hand or write in the chat, or we can have a conversation with you opening your line.
I have a question which is just building on the same, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Possible?
Is that Raed?
Raed, yes.
Hi, Raed. Please, please. Go ahead.
Would the Gallup, because I've done the Gallup before, but I don't know whether it has been modified later. But is it possible to measure these extra utilized talents? Does it really measure it in terms of which ones are used more or used more than it's supposed to be?
So the tool, the assessment, if you go for the option, it gives you your 34 themes in the order, meaning that you will know which ones are your dominant or innate talents or strengths that you can tap into. So if you can think about 34 themes, and you split those 34 themes into 3 sections. The top section, if it's your top 10 or your top 15, you'll know, if you go through them, you'll know which ones are always present. And you'll go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and until you get to the point where you'll notice the next one is not always present. So when you get to that point, that's the line where it says anything above that line is your dominant talents, which means that they're always present. Now, only you know which ones you are utilizing or you've learned to utilize more than others. So if you remember, part of the process is after being aware of them, then to be cognizant. So have a look at your past patterns. I have worked with a leader where they had got so much from their achiever that their achiever was their, you've heard the expression, if you think everything is a nail, you will use a hammer. So for him, it was everything was his hammer was his achiever, everything was a nail. But the reality he found was that actually there are times where he's dealing with glass. and he has to draw on his empathy, for example, as opposed to his achiever, or his developer as opposed to his achiever. And when he realized that he had learned over the past to rely on like some of the talents more than others, and he was almost ignoring this potential that's sitting there, which is part of what coaching conversation is all about, is for you to tap into the potential you have. He then started making more intentional decisions and getting better results. So Rayed, as far as I know, there is no assessment that will give you that history, because the history lies with us in terms of reviewing what it is that we use more or less, and what's been effective, what's not been effective, because we're both the observer and the user. Does that make sense, right?
I since I used it before, and I came across so many, probably 8 types of psychometrics and the different measurements. I only managed to find one methodology that really measures it into the different levels between the green and the red, which is the, as you said, the higher ones, and the gray ones, which are really the ones unutilized. And the ones that I've used or actually came across, which is the Swedish methodology, which I posted in my chat. If I would really appreciate if you have any feedback, if you have already gone through such type of methodology, because it is the only one that I have managed to find that gives that difference with measurement, rather than just based on hunches or experience, fail or success.
Yeah. So here's my experience. My experience is different tools are good for different things. So this particular tool that I use with Gallup is good for utilizing the conversation around development going forward. It's been extremely effective. So as a development tool, it starts to give the client or your team some awareness around what it is that they can do going forward in order to enhance or increase their delivery in the role that they do. And the way it does it is utilizing that simple model that I've just identified with the coaching conversations attached to it. If you're looking for forward-looking, which is a conversation around coaching, then what coaching is all based on progress and development of individuals towards their desired outcome. And they do that by finding the potential they have and then tapping into that more and more. So what I find with Gallup is that it allows that conversation, it's a tool to start the conversation. It's not a tool that will end it. So it's a starting point. And I don't use it beyond that. Everything else then switches to coaching. So it's a tool, and it's beneficial for what it is, and it just accelerates the conversation towards that development. So thank you for your question, Rayed, and different tools, different I think benefits. So any other questions, Puya?
I think that's all that I can see. Ryan has several messages in there, and the other comments in there as well. Nicholas has made a comment, but I don't see Amir also. I don't see any other questions. But please, if raise your hand or just drop your question in the chat if anyone has a question before we close out.
I have another question, if possible.
Sure, Rayed. Fire away.
One of the key during my previous experience, I've already done so many leadership programs and developments through the last 15 years. The challenge was developing leaders in isolation of their cultures is like the stars moving in the galaxies without the dark matter between them. nothing holds them together. The culture is really so powerful that really all of the development, or nearly most of the development that we have done, is not realized properly because of the lack of understanding the culture, or the leader understanding his or her culture. So the question is, again, how would you go about it using the Gallup strengths to understand the relationship between the leader and her culture?
Yeah, great question. And by the way, the point that Riot highlights here, ICF changed their competency framework back in 2022. They upgraded it, and they did a very extensive research. And one of the skill sets, if you like, that was highlighted in the new one that wasn't in the previous, was the very specific question around the impact of culture to the conversation, and the importance of culture in setting the context that individual sits in. So when we talk about strength-based coaching conversations, we're mixing two very important tools together. The coaching conversation is very clearly focused on the who of the person. So when I'm working with the leadership team and their teams, I'm very, very focused on asking and understanding what the diversity is in the group, like who is in that group, and the diversity and the contribution and also the challenges they bring, but also what is the culture of the team leader that's going to set the tone for the team. So you've got this organizational culture, but every team has got its own culture within the team leader that's running it. So culture is a very, very important part of the dynamics. And if you ignore it, you're ignoring the who. And the who is where the change, or is a catalyst for change. So if you remember the 3 W's, you're asking what the team's goal is and what the team's context is. You also want to be diving into the who. So the who, so the talents are not, they go across culture. So I work with a multicultural organizations, and they all do the talent finder or the strength finder test. So that's talking about characteristics of human beings. But when you dive into the other parts of who, you also tap into things like culture, because that will then differentiate one person from another. So I agree with Riot 100%. Do not ignore it. It's a topic that you want to bring into the conversation as you're discovering the team and the team leader. So thanks for that.
Tamar, Nicholas has put a question in the chat, just so you.
Okay, so let's have a read. What does it say? So Nicholas,
How do we embrace diverse perspectives? As a starting point, be stubborn on the vision, but flexible on the details.
Be stubborn on the vision, but flexible on the details. So the question is, how do we embrace diverse perspectives? I think if you don't embrace diverse perspectives, how are you going to have a conversation built on one person really hearing the other person and being able to understand one another and build trust? So Nicholas, I would say the diverse perspective is a given. It's something as a team leader or a coach, you go into a conversation expecting the diverse perspective, and that, like talents, is neutral in the sense that it can only be good or bad based on how we approach it. So if somebody's got a diverse perspective, I am curious to understand how that would impact and benefit. And if it doesn't, in order for for that person to be complete. If they're not complete, they would become more disengaged. So for them to remain engaged, I want to make sure that they're complete with that conversation. So diverse perspective is expected. It's what do we do with it? And that is the coaching conversation. So, you know, we have a methodology in organizations around a structure for a team leader to have of 5 very specific coaching conversations for each individual that they lead directly. So, you know, if they lead up to 10 people, then there's a structure around making sure those diverse perspectives are heard and understood. And then some of them would be absolutely gold dust in terms of the ideas and ways that we could go forward that hadn't been seen before. So I hope I got the right end of the stick when I read that question, Nicholas, and I hope that helps. So any other things, any other questions that Puya you've noticed before I know we've got 2 minutes before we wrap up.
No, I don't believe so.
Thanks, Nicholas.
Okay, so Nicholas says that's crystal clear. I've also added, if you scroll up a little bit, I've added our email address and all of our social media and LinkedIn links, just so everyone has it if you want to get in touch with us.
Great. Well, I want to take this opportunity before everybody goes to say thank you for putting your time here. I trust it's been of some value to you. I'd like to share a feedback form if it really is just one question that we'd like to hear what sort of impact this session has had for you. I'm just launching it now. I would be really grateful if you respond to it so we know where we're at and where we need to improve and what to keep.